Hey, y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. We have our Thanksgiving weekend potluck episode.
Yay!
Which means there's just a little something to talk about in a variety of subjects. Right, Dylan?
Yes, we finally
It's a potluck episode.
Finally slept off the big dinner, and we are back in the studio to talk about a little bit about a lot of different stuff.
I'm Heather, by the way.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Hey.
How you doing? I feel like I've been in a food coma for the last couple of days.
I'm doing great. You?
I'm okay. People will have to bear with me this episode because I do have a bit of a cold.
You keep saying that every episode.
Yeah, I know. I can't seem to shake it, which is really stuffy. But it seems like it's gotten kind of worse. Maybe I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I don't know.
They say it's darkest before the dawn.
That's what they say. I was feeling pretty rough yesterday.
Yeah, you actually looked rough. Like you just looked like you didn't feel good, right?
Thanks. I look rough almost every day, but yes.
No, you know what I'm saying.
No, I know. My eyes were all glassy. Like, yeah. I did not feel well yesterday.
You done slept in this morning and everything.
Dude, I slept like half the day. I guess that's what you do when it's a holiday weekend, right?
Yeah, we're all taking the long way home, and, nobody should get in a hurry this time of year.
All right, Dylan. So to get things started, I thought we could discuss a few crimes, a bit of a little recap of things that happened over the holiday weekend.
A little mini crap.
Now, here's the thing, Dylan. There have been quite a few crime stories related to the Thanksgiving holiday.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So in the past few days, we've had some wild stories. For example, an axe-wielding burglar broke into a church on Thanksgiving, and the pastor was able to fight him off thanks to having a bit of a mixed martial arts background.
It was not expecting that, was he?
This burglar got more than he bargained for after breaking into a church on Thanksgiving, but he was greeted by this pastor who trained in martial arts. So on Thursday morning, a man used an axe to smash a window at First Family Church, which is a Baptist church in Antioch, California, causing the alarm to go off. This is according to the Antioch Police Department. Pastor Nick Neves went to go check on the disturbance and was not expecting to find a burglar. Despite being confronted by the pastor, the man, who has not yet been identified by police, decided to put up a fight.
We'll call him dumbass.
The pastor shouted at him to stop, that the police were on their way. That's when the man ran, and the pastor was able to grab a hold of him and ended up sort of wrestling him in the church parking lot. The pastor also had this martial arts training. He likes to stay fit. He does some jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. So with this training, he was able to grapple this man without having to do much harm to him. This confrontation lasted anywhere from maybe like 12 to 15 minutes while the pastor held him down, this would-be burglar. Officers arrived and they took him out of custody.
The power of my fist compel you. So he was able to restrain the man without, doing a lot of damage to his body.
Yeah, so he pinned him to the ground, and the guy did try to get away several times, but the pastor said he was just trying to wear him out because he knew he could outlast this burglar because he does this kind of training.
Yeah.
The Antioch Police Department hasn't really released any further information about this. Of course, the church and the community say that they are pretty proud that they had this pastor who was able to act fast in the situation and, kind of help get it under control before police got there.
Well,
because
look,
it could have gone in a totally different direction. Could have ended very badly.
This pastor has the power of God on his side, folks. So I just don't know what this axe-wielding burglar thought he was going to accomplish anyway.
Well, Pastor Neves said he hopes the burglar will change his ways. He also explained that had the man just simply walked through the front door of the church, he had just provided groceries for 130 families and that he would have gladly taken care of this man, whatever it was he needed. And that he just thinks it's ironic that a couple of days earlier, he could have come by and been blessed and given food or whatever he needed, but he decided to smash the windows, desecrate the property, and do something that's going to, in the end, hurt the ministry.
Yeah, so they helped out 130 families. That's a lot of families.
That is a lot of people to help
That's
out.
a lot of households. So that's certainly a good holiday spirits there at that church, and they're certainly giving of themselves back to the community.
And I like to see that. I mean, we've talked about this, Dylan. We're not super religious. We don't really participate in organized religion. But I do like to see this. I mean, we have a lot of friends who are regular churchgoers, who are Christian. And when they tell us stories about how their church has given back to the community or these wonderful things that they're doing, that warms my heart. And I'm so glad that we do have these organizations out there because they do so much.
They do so much. And I
think a lot of people look over the fact that the different churches and whatnot, I mean, they do so much for the community. They provide childcare. They help out with, often food pantries.
Utilities.
Soup kitchen. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you can go to one of these ministries and say like, hey, I'm out of a job and I need help, and they'll pay your electric bill or something.
And that's not to mention the helping members of the church interior, themselves, all the other members, helping members with big health bills.
And the volunteer work that they do in the community. I mean,
medical crises.
These organizations really do help folks.
Oftentimes, if someone's house burns.
That's what it's all about.
I'm sorry, Heather. I didn't mean to step on you.
No, you're okay.
If someone's house falls,
step on me, Dad.
burns down, these are the first. These are kind of the first responders of help in a lot of communities, especially the smaller the town, the more important these organizations are. And it's all about the sense of community. And they mean it. They practice what they preach.
Well, just coming out of Hurricane Helene, which, by the way, Western North Carolina is still not fully recovered. And there is a lot going on up there. Folks trying to find temporary housing, going into the cold weather. But many of the churches have come together to really help folks. They have personal RVs that the congregation are offering up their personal RVs and campers for people to stay in through the cold weather months. Your daughter, for example, she was able to go to a church and they helped with diapers.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff. Yeah,
there's hundreds of roads still closed. The kind of damage up there is not an easy fix. Not that it is anywhere. These types of storms are horrible.
But in the mountains, you have these very narrow, winding roads.
Yes. A lot of communities, you have one bridge get washed out, and it literally cuts off an entire community of maybe 10, 20, or even 100 households.
A huge section of the road.
Yeah.
And then you have water flowing through and boulders, and that's not a quick fix.
No,
by any means.
That takes months and months, and that's if you start right away.
What did they say? $5 billion? It would take $5 billion to fix most of the roads.
Wow.
Is that? I believe that was the number you gave me.
Yeah, I believe that is. It's so bad that Buncombe County, there where the largest town, Asheville, is at, went from first in unemployment in the state to dead last. That's how big of an impact this storm has made on the area.
And there was already a big housing crisis in that area, and now it's just, compounded. It's way worse.
Yeah, so I don't know what this burglar was thinking when he thought he would just smash a window or smash a door out in a church and go take from people who give to others.
And of all places to break in, you're going to break into a house of God.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
It's very wrong. All right, to continue on with some of our Thanksgiving crime, Dylan, this story, wow, it's a mind blower.
Wait, do you have one where somebody assaulted somebody with dressing or a turkey? Because that'd be a good one.
Well, no, but I have a personal story like that. Are you trying to describe my childhood Thanksgivings? Just kidding. Or am I? So a Massachusetts man has been charged with involuntary manslaughter in the death of his roommate following a disagreement over Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, God.
Robert Lombardi, 65, was charged in connection to the death of his roommate Frank Griswold, 80, after he shoved him in a dispute over holiday meal preparations at their home in Marshfield. And this was on November 27th, according to the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office. Now, the release added that Marshfield police received a 911 call for a report of an unconscious male on the floor of the kitchen located at 853 Main Street. When they arrived, they found Griswold bleeding from the head. Authorities having stated that he was suffering some sort of laceration to the forehead and a fractured neck. He was transported to a hospital where he died of his injuries. Now, per the release, a preliminary investigation determined that the suspect shoved the victim following a disagreement over this holiday meal. The victim fell to the floor and struck his head. Now, Lombardi told police he was cooking a meal and got into this argument with Frank because he did not want him in the kitchen touching the food. Lombardi said his roommate, quote, often sneezes, and he did not want him to sneeze or contaminate the food that was being made for Thanksgiving. He said he left the kitchen and later returned to find Griswold near the food, and he grabbed him from behind, and that he surmised that Frank Griswold, I always think of the Christmas Vacation, that his feet must have gotten tangled up somehow, and that's how he fell and hit his head. He did see the victim near the food, and that's when he kind of went over and grabbed him because he just didn't want him sneezing on the food, Dylan.
Well, he's trying to guess how this poor old man fell. It's because you snatched him, threw him off balance, and made him fall. So, I mean, look, I get not wanting people to sneeze on your food. I'd be one of the first people to say I'd prefer if you didn't do that. But, I mean, it's an old man. You have to be careful.
Yeah, Lombardi was arrested over this incident. He has pled not guilty to 1 count of involuntary manslaughter and 1 count of assault and battery on a person over the age of 60. His defense attorney said in court that the incident was, quote, as close to an accident and nothing more as I've heard in a long time. But Lombardi is being held without bail.
What do you think about this case?
Okay. I just don't understand why it escalated.
Right.
I mean, I get like not wanting this person who has allergies or whatever sneezing all over the food. I get that. But he's also 80 years old.
I'm gonna guess.
I don't understand why they couldn't come to some sort of agreement without it escalating into physical altercation.
I agree. And I'm going to guess that there's more to it than just this one incident. They've been having issues, arguing amongst themselves, maybe about bills, household, just roommate stuff. And that maybe this person overreacted when it was kind of a non-issue.
I almost wonder if they are just friends or if there's more to this, because according to court documents, Lombardi and Griswold met in the 90s while they worked together in finance. They started living together in 2001 and had been renting this Marshfield home since 2008. So it almost sounds like maybe they were a couple. I mean, maybe they were just friends and roommates.
Right.
But that's 30 years is a really long time to be living with someone in a platonic way.
Right. Because most people either move on with their life or their circumstance changes. They get a partner or, have a kid or something like that. And it's kind of a natural progression to move on, move out of a roommate situation.
Well, again, you asked me, I mean, behavior breeds consequences. And I just feel like this guy needed to get his bad behavior or anger under control.
Well, yeah, certainly.
Because it really escalated, and it doesn't feel like this was a malicious thing. It's more like irritability, annoyance that kind of led to not a good ending.
Yeah, I think it certainly got out of hand, and unfortunately, this gentleman fell and hit his head. At his age, that can literally be a death sentence.
Absolutely, Dylan. So we should all have a little more care and compassion.
Just, maybe let them sneeze on it. Just let people maybe sneeze on it.
I don't want to sneeze on it.
You don't think that's an option?
I don't want you to sneeze on it either.
Okay. Well, you going to fling me down on the damn floor? Shit, make me hit my head. I hit this head.
I'll make you pay extra for that.
God, I'm going to get hurt if I hit my head.
I don't know.
Bash through the counter. You have to get a new cabinet in there.
Seems like there's a lot of padding, maybe. I'm not sure. All right, Dylan. So another Thanksgiving crime story is Memphis, Tennessee. We've got a woman there arrested on Thanksgiving after stabbing 2 of her family members.
See, here we go. This is the one I expected.
According to the Memphis Police Department, LaChunda Johnson, 55, is facing charges that include aggravated assault and domestic violence. Officers said they spoke to one of the stabbing victims at the hospital who told them that she and her mother, Johnson, were involved in an argument about her son being pushed. Johnson charged at those individuals in the argument that evening after she got a knife from the kitchen. Johnson's daughter sustained abrasions to her left hand, and the woman's grandson was also injured on his left hand. Authorities said Johnson had been drinking and was possibly heavily intoxicated at the time of the attack. Officers took Johnson into custody nearby after she left the family home. There were also 3 other juveniles inside the house at the time of the incident, but they were not harmed.
Okay.
Now, Dylan, I have to ask. My family, I did not grow up in a family of like drinkers, honestly. Like, you know, they never were I guess, much, you know, having drinks and that kind of thing. So I never really witnessed Thanksgiving or Christmas with people drinks were never part of it.
Right.
On occasion, you know, somebody might have a drink here or there, but it was just not like part of our family culture, I suppose, to drink.
It wasn't a given that someone would be drinking every time the family got
and I know
together.
a lot of people do have wine or drinks, or that's part of the Thanksgiving holiday celebration. But I almost feel like anytime you're going to involve alcohol, those little minor family disputes can erupt.
Well, we all know that
Alcohol's going to fuel that fire.
Yeah, it only makes that. Very seldom do people say, "Gosh, I'm so glad I wasn't drunk as hell when that happened," or "I wish I was." I mean, alcohol never helps, right?
Yeah,
and it certainly is I would say the number one thing outside of if you've been strung out on, you know, really heavy drugs for days on end and haven't slept or something like that. I think alcohol is the number one drug for making situations get out of control or overreactions, if you will.
agreed. You know, and now looking back on it, I'm like, I don't come from a family of drinkers at all. Like, it's kind of interesting. But I remember the first time I ever went to a family holiday celebration, like where I was invited, and everyone was kind of drinking and partying. And I was probably in my early 20s. I'm going to say I might have been about 23. And it was very, like, sort of surprising to me because I'd never really been around that before. And I'm like, wow, everybody's like slamming back drinks and throwing down. This is different.
Would you say it was a much more boisterous crowd?
Oh, yeah.
And kind of loud?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were having a good time. And I will admit, I mean, it was very fun. I was invited by a friend and I had a great time. But it was quite different from my family's traditional, you know, holiday gathering.
And that's another thing we were talking about just the other day. When we were growing up, and you know, people seem very worried about getting together with their, you know, loved ones this year, and we remember that people just even if you didn't, you had to typically be around people you didn't like all that much. Sometimes some member of the family who's kind of an asshole,
yeah.
this and that. But people made it through with a quite a bit more grace than it seems to be nowadays. It seems like now people are just waiting to start inflammatory conversations.
Well, they don't even want to come because they're like, well, I know who you voted for. I'm not including you.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm at a point where I guess I once upon a time felt passionate about things like politics, but I'm no longer going to let that control my time or my energy or my thoughts or the people in my life.
Well, that's it.
I'm just I don't care. Put that on the back burner. Like, be with the people you care about. These are the people you've loved, who've raised you, who've been in your life. Move forward. Like, there were just certain things we didn't talk about. Some years ago, you didn't discuss politics, you didn't discuss religion, and you didn't talk about money.
Yeah.
Like finances, that was like considered, I always was told that was considered rude.
Right.
So these were just certain things that, because I never remember politics coming up at any holiday meal.
No.
I never remember anybody talking about religion or anything that would be offensive to other. I mean, it was like very carefully crafted conversation, I suppose.
Well, yeah, and people had a good time, and they shared with each other about what's happened in their lives, but they left those big ticket items, if you will, they left it out, and I think for obvious reasons. And you may have had that crazy uncle or aunt who said, you know, might say something a little salacious or something a little dirty or something, and people would laugh about that. But I almost think that nowadays, and this happens in many other groups, it's almost like people are letting their politics and their things like that become their identity.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I think that is a problem.
It is.
I really don't think you should let those aspects of your life control your life.
I agree, Dylan.
And I just want us to
In the words of Elsa, let it go.
It just
Let it go.
Yeah, just move along, you know.
Let it go with the wind and the snow.
Right.
I mean, we just all are here to have some stuffing and sweet potatoes, right?
Yeah, and maybe a little nip of eggnog. Get ready for the holidays.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you like eggnog?
No.
We talked about this before.
I do not.
Okay.
Just seeing a glass of it makes me want to puke.
I had homemade eggnog one time at a roller derby Christmas party. One of the skaters made homemade eggnog, and that was some good shit.
Really?
But I've never had it in a carton where I thought, this is good.
Right.
I need more of this
No.
in my life.
It's very creamy looking. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Especially like, creamy, like milks and such
Thick.
with liquors.
It looks chunky.
Is kind of strange.
No, well, even some of the liquor drinks like the White Russian or the Fuzzy Navel, maybe. Or
I
just
don't think that has.
well, the ones I
just
see
like
with heavy
peach
creams or liqueurs.
Okay, I get that, but then there's the Colorado Bulldog is one of my favorite drinks, and it does have milk in it, and it's fucking delicious.
But you know what? I look at it from you're just having a drink and you're enjoying that drink, and I look at it from someone who's had issues with alcohol in the past. I'm like, if I drink a bunch of those, I'm going to get sick as hell.
Well, yeah.
You see what you see the perspective difference there?
Yes, I do.
And as a drinker or someone who wants to get fucked up,
You don't need milk in your
you don't want to
liquors.
drink a bunch of milk drinks. But it's very funny how different that, and that's not a healthy perspective to look at something. Instead of just be like, oh, I can try this tasty drink and enjoy it. The drinker's thinking, well, I want to have 9, or I want to get a buzz, or that's interfering with me feeling good. It's really messed up thought.
Well,
thought
years ago, I
process.
worked at a country club. I was like the membership and marketing person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I had to attend a lot of events because I also kind of took on a role of helping with like the event planning, and because we were very bare bones staff.
You've done this many times in your life.
I always end up doing like 6 jobs and
Yeah.
getting paid for one. Absolutely. You're welcome, employers who've been shitty to me over the years because I work my ass off. So yeah, I would go to, and plus just being like a membership person, like I would have to go to an event, especially if it was member events and circulate and, schmooze and whatever, which, I hate.
Right.
I used to be good at it though.
You could fake it.
Dude, I'm really good at like bullshitting, but yeah, I don't like it. But anyway, I'd go to these events and I would be, able to have free drinks from the bar. And I remember asking the bartender one time, she's like, well, what do you want to drink? And I'm like, I don't know. Just what do you suggest? And she made me the Colorado Bulldog. And I was like, ooh, I don't know. And she's like, no, girl, you trust me. It's got milk and like a splash of Coke in it. And you would think, ooh, but man, it's a good drink.
Okay.
It's a really good drink.
Well, as a reformed drinker, and I can almost drink like a normal person now. Almost.
Yeah.
For the most part.
As long as I keep an eye on you.
And I will try one of those.
You
All
should.
right?
Well,
I'm
we can
gonna.
make them here. I think it's vodka, Kahlua, milk, and a splash of Coke.
Okay.
But very tasty. But eggnog, maybe not.
All right. So if you have a unhealthy love for eggnog, or you just love the fuck out of those Colorado Bulldogs, hit us up at Mountain Murders.
Absolutely.
Mountain Murders Podcast at gmail.com and let us know what you think
I'm
about it.
just curious if you have any good holiday drink ideas.
Yes.
Because a lot of families have a tradition, and maybe they have like some kind of traditional holiday, like a punch, like a rum punch or mulled wine or something like that. So let us
Okay.
know what your family does.
That's a great idea. And if we get quite a few little hits there, we will read those maybe right before the holidays. We'll talk about it.
Well, Dylan, I did want to mention something. Last episode, we talked about the squirrel rabbit creature that we have no idea what it is.
It's a new
if
cryptid.
It's a rabbit or a squirrel.
Yeah.
Well, we've had 2 folks reach out. First of all, our friend, because he's our friend first and our neighbor second, Brian, listen to the episode. He has seen the squirrel rabbit. So we're not losing it, bud.
This is a real cryptid.
He's seen it in the neighborhood.
Yes, this has been discovered here on Mountain Murders podcast.
He's viewed it with his eyes. He was also like a little baffled by what is this thing? It hops like a rabbit but looks like a squirrel without a tail. I don't know. I was like, thank you so much for telling me this.
Yes, thank you,
really
Brian.
Thought we were losing it. Then we had Jen from Canada reach out.
What?
Yes. She has seen a similar creature, and she has a name for it. The Scrabbit.
It's a Scrabbit.
A Scrabbit.
Oh, my gosh.
So Jen has named the cryptid. We have the Scrabbit.
It's a Scrabbit.
And not only is it here in the south of the United States, but you can find them in Canada, too.
So, basically, it's worldwide.
A Scrabbit.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It's all over the world.
Jen also recommended a song for you called Sticky, and you seem like you like it. It's a rap song. So thanks for that.
I got to wash my hands.
I love when folks reach out.
I'm thinking about being sticky right now, and I don't like it.
Okay, enough.
All right, we're moving on.
Okay. We have one more Thanksgiving-based, well, actually we have two more kind of Thanksgiving-based crime stories, and then we're going to move on to something else, Dylan. Because again, it's our Thanksgiving potluck extravaganza. You're getting a little bit of everything. Woo!
We're going to taste all the stuff.
We'll be moving away from the appetizers into the main dish here in a moment. So 2 people were killed and 2 others were wounded at a shooting in San Antonio on Thanksgiving morning. Shots rang out around 8 a.m. in the city's east side at a home off Potomac Street near St. James Street. The San Antonio police said 4 people were found shot. All of the individuals knew each other, including the shooter. The suspected shooter was a man in his 20s, and he left the house after allegedly opening fire, and he was taken into police custody. The chief said that he couldn't remember the number of times he's been called out on Thanksgiving for something like this, but it happens all too frequently.
What the hell?
These family feuds. So details haven't really been released about this, but just that quote from the police chief that this happens too often.
So
you're like, the holidays are supposed to be a time when we get together and celebrate and enjoy each other's company and spend time together. And that's kind of a scary thought that these families or friend groups get together and then it turns into a violent incident.
Well, yeah, with any kind of frequency, because like you said, you're around friends and family, you would expect that for the most part, it's not going to get to this level. It's not going to escalate. It's a little bit ridiculous. And I bet oftentimes alcohol is probably involved in these.
Could be, Dylan. Could be. Now, our last news story, and I chose this because this is really scary. A New York-based model was kidnapped at gunpoint in Brazil along with her photographer husband and one of their kids before being taken hostage and held in a shack for 12 hours in a terrifying ordeal.
Oh, my God.
Luciana Curtis, her husband Enrique, Enrique, or it could be Enrique. Gendre and their 11-year-old child were ambushed Wednesday night by a gang of armed men as they left a restaurant in Sao Paulo. According to a local news outlet, the 47-year-old Brazilian-born model and her family were forced at gunpoint into their own car and driven to a wooden shack in Brasilandia, where they were held captive overnight. This shack it sounds like disgusting. It had a mattress, a toilet, and a sink only. The armed individuals approached them outside of this restaurant, took them captive. The gang transferred money from the couple's bank accounts before the family was freed early on Thursday. Law enforcement, meanwhile, were already searching for the 3 after their eldest child, who didn't go to dinner, realized they had not returned and alerted relatives. So during the search by special police teams, the gang abandoned the family and fled. This is terrifying.
Nah, could you imagine just going about your business, regular day, night, chilling, and next thing you know, somebody's got a gun in your face?
After the family was let go by these kidnappers, they were sort of searching the area for help after they were cut loose. So they are safe and well. But this is very scary stuff. Curtis was born in Brazil, and she's the daughter of a British businessman. She lives in New York, but splits time between Brazil, London, and New York. She was actually Brazilian finalist for Supermodel of the World in 1993.
Oh, wow.
Or actually, she won, I'm sorry, the final Supermodel of the World. And she's been on the covers of Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire. She's modeled for H&M, Victoria's Secrets, Harrods.
Damn.
Victoria's Secrets. I don't know.
So she's an accomplished model.
Yeah. How terrifying. You're just like out with your family night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Kidnapped.
Never expecting that. And unfortunately,
very scary stuff.
In some places, they were obviously, she was probably being targeted for, having these foreign ties and being, a bit famous. And they thought maybe it'd be an easy score. I'm just glad they were able to get away, everyone safely.
You think that's what happened? That maybe they were kind of watching?
Well, yeah, typically people don't kidnap someone unless they think they can get a ransom, if that's the point in the first place, and not just intimidation.
Man, I would be screwed if somebody was trying to get a ransom.
Bro. They would bring me back. Tell me, man, you ate more than like we're going to get from this.
My husband would just be like, I can pay you in Heather's shoes, or there's like a half-eaten bag of pretzels.
How about if we make some kind of an arrangement, I can pay you every Thursday.
Let's make a deal.
Maybe $100 I can scratch out of that. I don't know. And this, I always pay my debts, so don't worry.
You're like a Lannister.
Yeah. I'm exactly like a Lannister.
Okay, so now, Dylan, let's move on from the appetizers to the main course here.
What you got?
I have a couple of listener stories.
Oh, wow.
That I've been hanging on to. So we'll just go ahead and we'll talk about these today. Are you ready?
Let's dive straight in.
All right, our first one. Dear Mountain Murderers, I hadn't thought about these incidents in a long time. My dad was in the military. He retired some years ago. We moved around a lot when I was growing up. It was pretty easy for me to make friends, and most of the other kids on base were in a similar situation, moving around often. Base housing where we lived at the time was about a mile walk to the main part of base where the shopping center, movie theater, and recreation center was located. Sometimes I would ride my bike to swim at the rec center or catch a movie. Most of the time, one of the other kids who lived in the neighborhood would join me. On this day, I can't remember why, but I walked to the pool. I'm thinking my bike tire was flat, but it's been so long I can't exactly remember. There was a stretch of road outside the neighborhood that was fairly isolated, just woods next to the road and sidewalk. There was also a tall security fence along the woods. As I was walking along, I noticed this dark-colored SUV drove by with tinted windows. I didn't think much of it until it came back by again. The SUV seemed to slow down when it was up next to me. I didn't look over. I just kept walking. Again, I wasn't thinking deeply about it. Then in a few minutes, it passed me again. I thought maybe it was someone lost and I was half expecting them to roll down a window and ask for directions. Never happened. I make it to the pool. I spend the afternoon swimming with my friends. When we're leaving the pool, I notice the blacked out SUV parked across the street from the rec center entrance. That's when I tell my buddy about how it had driven by me 3 times and now it was here. As soon as we looked over at it, the vehicle turned on and drove away slowly.
Oh, yeah.
The friend who'd been on the base longer than me said he'd seen it too. Other kids knew about the vehicle and even took measures to hide when it drove by. It seemed to only slow down or drive around kids. This wouldn't be the first time this vehicle drove around me or by me. It was always the same, slowing down, drive by a few times. I said something to my parents, and my dad said it was probably just security or an undercover, like a military police patrol. But there was a legend around the base that soldiers and children had gone missing in the past. They were used for experiments. So basically, we invented Stranger Things long before it was on Netflix. I still don't know why kids were being followed by this SUV, unless it really was just law enforcement, maybe watching preteens who might get into trouble.
Oh, my gosh.
Tanner.
Well, Tanner, you think they could find out a little bit less creepy way to keep an eye out, Maybe a marked vehicle or something?
It's very strange.
Or roll the window down and say, hey, kids, are you guys okay? You doing okay? Don't get into trouble.
I think there are a lot of stories that float around on military bases about experiments on soldiers and that kind of thing.
Well, I could only imagine.
Because I've heard those stories about different bases. And I was even at like an army post that people talked about that. And there was like this old part of the base or, the post where people are like, oh, that's where you don't go over there. It's abandoned kind of thing. I think that's a pretty common story around military installations.
Well, it's almost
but it's very creepy.
Yeah.
And if you do live on a base where there is high security, like it's some kind of top secret base or there's something like that, you do have that additional security, and it can kind of make you feel uncomfortable because you do almost feel like, am I being stalked? Because you do see so much of that patrol.
Right.
But thanks, Tanner. Good story.
It's creepy.
Now I want to go get in a pool. All right, Dylan, you ready for the next one?
Let's go.
All right. I was 8 years old the first time I saw it. My mom had sent me out to gather firewood before the sun dipped below the horizon. We lived on the edge of the woods back then in a small house that always smelled like damp pine and mildew. I wasn't scared of the forest. I grew up exploring it, building forts with sticks, and pretending to be some kind of wild adventurer. But that day was different. The air felt heavier, like a storm was brewing, even though the sky was clear. I remember the way the birds had gone quiet, the kind of silence that settles on you and makes your skin crawl. Still, I kept walking, dragging my little wagon behind me, watching the ground for good branches. And that's when I heard it, a rustling sound, just off to my left. At first, I thought it was a deer. They were common enough, and I'd startled them plenty of times before. But then I saw it, and I knew it wasn't any deer. It stood on two legs, hunched over, its back curved like a question mark. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and stretched tight over a bony frame.
Ugh.
The creature's head was too large for its body, with eyes that seemed too big and black, reflecting the dimming light of the wet stones on the ground. It had no mouth that I could see, just slits where a nose should have been, and its fingers, if you could call them that, were long and thin, ending in sharp points. I didn't move right away. I just stood there, half hidden behind a tree. It just stood there, half hidden behind a tree, watching me. My chest felt like it was going to explode. I couldn't run, couldn't scream. I just stared back at it, my little hands gripping the wagon handles so tight my knuckles turned white. Then it tilted its head, not like an animal trying to figure something out. It was too delicate, too human. And that's when it stepped closer into the light that filtered through the trees. Its legs were long and bent backwards at the knees like a bird's. It made no sound, not even when it moved. I don't know how long I stood there frozen. It felt like hours, but must have been only a few seconds. And then as it suddenly appeared, it turned and lopped off into the woods, moving as fast as it was almost a blur.
Jesus.
I'm like, this is a... You should be a good writer. Like
I was going to say, like, you should write books, dude.
You're good writer. You should write a book, man.
Damn, because this compelling writing. That is not a scrabbit. Okay, I can go ahead and tell you that.
I ran home as fast as my legs would carry me, leaving the wagon and the firewood behind. When I burst through the door, gasping and shaking, my mom just laughed, said I must have seen a shadow or a raccoon, but I knew better. I still do. I've been back to those woods 100 times since then, hoping I'd see it again and hoping I wouldn't.
Jeez.
And this is signed Monica.
Wow, Monica.
Damn, I mean, Monica, you need to write a book because it's a fucking creepy story.
Or some creepy pastas at the very least.
Dang.
Because, Monica, girl, you could write.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is terrifying.
That description is disgusting and terrifying at the same time.
I mean, it's a back all arched. That's what I'm thinking. It's got like this weird, and then the bird legs that go.
Yeah. And the almost translucent skin stretched over a bony frame. And the big black eyes.
And the weird mouth and nose.
No,
consistent.
where the nose should be.
Well, I was saying the non-existent.
Slits.
Ah!
Oh my gosh.
No.
No.
I would rather see a scrabbit.
I would rather see a scrabbit because it was almost cute, though it moved in a very strange way.
All right. Are we ready for our next one?
Yeah.
Big fan of Mountain Murders. Hi, I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoy your podcast. True crime has always fascinated me, and your show stands out because of the way you dive into cases with such detail and passion. And they put, Dylan is so passionate. It's clear how much effort you put into researching every episode. I appreciate how you don't lose sight of the victim stories. The episode on Ricky Casso was especially compelling, and I found myself completely absorbed. The way Heather breaks down cases is so thoughtful and engaging. The podcast is high quality and definitely a favorite.
Thank you.
Thank you. The listener episodes have me hooked too. I wanted to share something that happened to me a few years ago when I was starting out in real estate. To make a long story short, interior design was my college major, but little did I know how difficult it is to find a job in that field. I had visions of wealthy clients throwing money at me, but all I could land were jobs selling flooring or cabinets. It was not how I imagined my career going. After struggling for a while, I decided to get my real estate license. It's been a great job for me, but I do have some stories. I thought I would tell you a few. Okay.
Okay. I'm listening.
One of the first houses I listed was a woman who had inherited from a great aunt. The house had been empty for a while. We do a walkthrough, and I noticed one of the bedroom doors had 5 locks. Like the regular knob had a key, which I'd never really seen before, like a bedroom door with a lock. Let's see here. It had a deadbolt, 2 chain door locks, and a place for a padlock. Out of curiosity, I asked the woman why her aunt had so many locks on the bedroom door. She said the aunt had a mentally handicapped son and kept him locked in a room. I was astonished, but even more appalled by the flippant way she acted about it, like it was no big deal before moving on to these other rooms.
Oh, yeah, we just lock our mentally disabled son in there. No biggie.
What the hell?
No big whoop.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a little unnerving, especially if someone's just like, oh, yeah, that's the room for Bill.
Oh, God.
Another time I was showing a house, the seller still lived in the home, and they were given notice about the showing. This gives them time to, zhuzh up the property. The seller had left the biggest, brightest purple dildo sitting on the nightstand.
What?
Not only was it long, but quite hefty in diameter. Oh, my God. The buyers were an older couple, and the wife was entitled and excessively demanding. She had nothing but negative comments about every property I'd shown her. When we walked into this bedroom, she was confronted by this large item and nearly passed out. It was a dramatic scene with her literally clutching her pearls, putting the back of her hand on her forehead, and nearly fainting into her husband's arms.
Oh, she's like Fred Sanford. She was coming to see Elizabeth.
The way she was behaving, I asked if she needed me to call for an ambulance. I apologized multiple times as the couple stormed outside. Now, at first, the husband was fine, but soon grew angry, taking his wife's side, amping up the situation. He started yelling at me about how I had traumatized his lovely wife. I've been personally victimized by this big dildo.
I didn't do it. The big dildo traumatized her, bro. It was the purple, big purple in there. I had a good name for it there, but I can't say it. It's kind of like the purple people eater.
Okay, don't.
Let's just leave it at that. The giant purple people eater.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what wrecked her, bro.
Grimace.
Grimace.
Who's a taste bud, by the way.
Oh my God. Is Grimace supposed to be a taste bud? That's not true.
It's very strange.
Ugh.
Yes, I promise. You look it up. The car ride back to my office was awkward. They ended up complaining to the broker in charge, acting as if...
they had rode there in the same vehicle? Oh, my goodness.
Acting as if I had intentionally left a vicious sex toy out in order to shock them. Not only was I put in this uncomfortable position by the couple, but then I had to explain delicately to the seller why the buyers were not interested in the property.
Well, if you hadn't left that third leg laying on your dresser, we might be be closing here, folks.
Okay. Can I just say I love our listeners, and they send us the best stuff.
This is good.
Okay. My final story is about a time I found a squatter living in an empty house. I had noticed trash in the house the first time, thinking maybe the previous owners had left a few fast food wrappers.
Wait a second. Is this another one?
Yeah, this is the same.
It's the same story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she said she had a few for us.
Okay.
Okay. Thinking maybe the previous owners had left a few fast food wrappers and paper plates out, I cleaned it up. But next time I went back with an inspector, and we're in the garage chatting about something, when this guy opens the door, pops his head in, and demands to know who we are. I tell him who I am and ask him the same questions, like, who are you and what are you doing here? He admits that he's been staying at the property illegally, but asks us not to call the police because he's on house arrest and not allowed to leave. So a squatter on house arrest,
nice.
Basically. Well, I do call the police. He's removed from the house and trespassed, along with being charged criminally. And then she signs it, "Thanks for reading my email, Bianca."
Thanks, Bianca. That was great. So how the hell you get put on house arrest at a place you're illegally staying at? That's weird.
I don't know.
But it
Maybe
doesn't
I guess if you put the address down as your residence.
Well, yeah, I guess I wouldn't even probably look into that.
I probably would. Oh my God, I can't leave. I'm on house arrest.
Yeah, I'm on house arrest here.
But I'm also squatting. What the fuck? I'm illegally trespassing.
Jesus.
But I'm on house arrest, so don't call the police.
Oh my gosh.
Dylan.
So that was a good little thanks living potluck.
Okay, now you're responsible for dessert. So what you got for us?
I got nothing but good tides.
Okay.
And good farewell wishes.
And nicknames for this purple dildo?
The giant purple people eater.
Dang.
We're going to leave it at that.
Jeez. Can you imagine?
No, I couldn't. And the fact it's a really bright color and seemed to be of a pretty big size there, which is awesome. Because I think in a situation like that, if it was just regular, it wouldn't even be that good of a story. You'd be like a little bit embarrassed. But the fact that it's like Girth Brooks, Garth's little big cousin, and brightly colored, oh my God. Oh, it could be the home wrecker. It could
be described as hefty.
Hefty.
Well, it sounds like it's wrecking some.
Shoo. All right.
Okay,
so
Dylan.
Thank you for those tidbits.
You're welcome.
Those leftovers after this Thanksgiving holiday. And we'll be back soon with a regular episode. Heather's going to get back on the grindstone.
Yeah, we did take a couple days off just with the holiday.
We had to recover.
Be having a little cold and all.
Had to walk it off.
Yeah. Had to sleep it off, apparently. It's like all I did today.
Okay, so we hope this finds you safe, happy, and fed, I believe is the saying. And this podcast, we hope it finds you. That's not the saying. It is true.
It's not.
No, that's it. I made that stick.
Well, you are passionate, apparently.
And I feel very passionate right now,
Because you have to go to work in a few hours.
Don't remind me.
You have to go in early.
Boo. And yeah, we hope everybody's doing great out there, and we cannot wait to get in your ear next time.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah. Okay, since the Sextons, that 2-part episode on the Sexton family was so emotionally draining and difficult to talk about, and probably difficult for folks to hear because it's such a fucked up story. Our episode that we'll be dropping hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to get it out tomorrow on Monday. So to start your week off, you'll have a new episode. It'll be much lighter.
Much lighter.
It'll be a much lighter story.
And I think anything could be lighter than the Sexton stories.
Yeah, this will be much lighter.
All right. Thank you for that, Heather. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye.